Oh, you're here. These? My wife's doing a live stream on Saturday on her channel, which I'll actually link to at the end. And since it's holiday themed, she and I are going to be wearing, well, I'll be wearing antlers. I kind of think they're cool. I think maybe I should just wear them all the time. You know, stand-ups, rancher meetings. Tell me what you think in the comments. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's day 6 of 7 days with Rio. I actually missed a day yesterday, but it's still day 6 as far as what I'm able to show you for Rio. Today we're going to be going through continuous delivery, integration with Git repositories, GitHub, private repos, everything that you need to know to connect Rio to repositories so that it can automatically build and deploy applications based on changes in the repo, pull requests, and various other things. It's a lot of information, so let's just jump right in. The information that you want to know about how to connect Rio to a repository is actually scattered in various places throughout the documentation. I'll start from the top down and we'll jump around, and hopefully out of this you'll get the information that you need to do the things that you need to do. First off, let's deploy an application from a local repository with a RIOFILE. This is my repository for my standard Rancher demo application that I've been using all throughout this series, but today I've added a RIOFILE into it. The RIOFILE is very simple, but instead of telling it to pull an image from Docker Hub, I'm actually using image.slash, which tells it to build locally from what it has. If I run Rio up in this directory, it will actually build the container within the Rio installation and then serve it from a local repository. We've got an application. Let's grab the endpoint. And there we go. Now this all happened without an image being pushed out to Docker Hub or any other repository. Within the RIOFILE, we've set the things that we care about for when the application is running, the ports, the cow color, autoscaler, and then of course we can just do the normal things that we were doing before. For example, we can change cow color to pink and run Rio up. And what happens here is actually suboptimal. Because there was a change to the RIOFILE, it's going to go ahead and build again. Even though most of this is cached, that's a little bit inefficient. However, it works. I'm not sure that there's a better way to do this that still fits within the model of changing the RIOFILE or changing the Docker file, because there's no way for Rio to know that the only thing that changed was an environment variable that's used at runtime. It just sees a change, and based on the change, it builds, and that hands off the caching to the build kit process within Rio. So that's probably about as optimized as we're going to get. So let's now push this change out to our repository. And let's nuke our stack. The first way that we're going to deploy this is just pointing at a GitHub repo. The first thing that you'll see is that we have no ports specified. So even though the RIOFILE specified what ports to run, this looks like it just pulled the Docker file and built it based on that. The reason for this is because we used Rio run instead of Rio up. Rio run, when pointed at a GitHub repo, will pull the Docker file and build it, and you have to specify all of the other options for Rio run. Rio up will go out to the repo and pull the Rio file, and it will do whatever is inside the Rio file. This is a subtle but very important distinction. So let's run it again properly. This still executes a build, which is why RIOPS doesn't immediately show the service, but now it's doing what the RIOFILE wants it to do. In just a second, we'll actually have something we can go to. And there it is. Now you see that there's ports, there's scale, there's weight, there's all of the other stuff that we specified. So if we jump over to the browser, this should no longer be throwing errors, and we'll just refresh it. So once pointed at a repo with Rio up, Rio will monitor that repo. We should now be able to make a change. And within a few seconds, we should see Rio rebuild the application. That's it. It rebuilt it. Cow color is now yellow. Took about 30 seconds overall. And now you have an example of Rio doing continuous delivery based on changes in a Git repository. So the default action for this is that it pulls the repo every 15 seconds. That's fine. But if I'm making a change to an application once every few weeks or months, is that really the best way to monitor for changes? It seems like, I get it, but it seems a little bit disrespectful to the companies that are providing the service, particularly when the service is for free. So let's find a better way to do that. I'll go to my user account page on GitHub. Over here under settings, developer settings, personal access tokens, generate a new token, and we'll call this Rio CLI. I want to give it access to repos, and because we'll be writing repo hooks, I want to give it access to that as well. We'll say generate token. We'll copy that token to the clipboard. And then we'll change out our workload to use the token. We want to select the namespace where our Rio workloads are running, which in this case is the default namespace, and then we'll paste our token in, and it's going to create a Kubernetes secret that contains the token. Now, when you use Rio up, we can provide the build token. If all is well, what should have just happened is a webhook should have been created in our GitHub repo that tells GitHub to ping Rio whenever a change is made. This, in my opinion, is a much better way to do this. This is way more respectful to GitHub. So if you're going to do repository watching, please do it this way. Most people don't make commits directly to the master branch where things can then get built on the fly. They actually commit to feature branches or issue branches and then submit pull requests. Well, what if somebody needs to review those pull requests prior to merging them? Rio gives the ability to monitor a repository and build new versions based on pull requests. I initially tried to do this using the RIOFILE and Rio up, but it didn't work. The documentation says that it'll work fine with Rio run, so first we'll need to edit the RIOFILE and pull out the changes that I made, and then try it again with Rio run. In the future, this should work with the RIOFILE, though it may not work with the repository. These are the directives that you need to provide. We'd already set up the GitHub tokens. We just need to tell it the repo, PR is true, what branch it needs to monitor, and then set template to true. Now, since we're going to switch over to using Rio run, it doesn't actually matter that there's a Rio file. Rio run is going to build based off of the Docker file, but I don't want any complications, so I feel better just removing that portion completely. We're not running anything here. And I've deleted the webhooks that were created from before. So let's switch over to this format. Okay, that's up. Back over here, you can see that our Rancher demo has stopped throwing errors and is now serving requests again, and that we're actually using the default cow color of blue. Before we push this, let's double check and make sure that we actually created a webhook. Here it is, create pull request and push. So now when we push this up, because it's in a branch, nothing's going to happen. It's only monitoring the master branch. But we will be able to create a pull request, and ideally, once the pull request is created, it will build the new version and let us look at it. All right, PR is in. Webhook should have fired. And you see now that we're getting a new build. When I ran this with Rio up, I'm not sure what happened, but it didn't build with the correct Rio file. It seemed to deploy the image that was already running. It's a bug. I'll take it back to the Rio developers and we'll see what they have to say about it. I'm really hoping that with Rio run, since that's the actual official supported documented version, that it works as advertised. Let's find out. Yellow! That's awesome! A yellow cow means that I might actually get to sleep tonight because I might actually finish this video before, well, before tomorrow morning. Let's keep going. So continuing with our workflow, in reality, somebody would review this, and they'd say, yep, yellow cow, good. Let's go ahead and confirm that merge. Go ahead and nuke my branch. Come back over here to Rio. All right, so earlier it built based on PR3, so pull request number 3, which was what our PR was actually numbered. And now it's building out a new version of the app because the master branch changed. And it failed over to it. And now over here on our actual main endpoint, you can see that the cow has gone from blue to yellow. That's a full publication process. That's amazing. That's, you've got something deployed with Rio, it's monitoring the master branch. Somebody makes a feature change, pushes it up to a branch, creates a pull request. Rio builds a staging version that you can view. You take a look at it, you say, yeah, that's cool. You merge the pull request, it deletes the staging version, deploys the new master version, and then cuts over to it. The use of the -- template flag means that it will maintain both versions. So in the event that there's something, that goes wrong, we could actually just promote the previous version back to being live. Hopefully we don't have to. If you don't provide -- template, then it will actually overwrite that current version with the next version, so you still end up with just one version. Personally, I think that it's safer to go with the new version, keeping the old one around, and then you can manually clean it up later. I wanted to actually demonstrate a bunch of other things, but it's getting late and I still want to try and get this video out today. So I'm just going to talk to you about what Rio is allegedly capable of doing, although I haven't actually tested it. It may or may not work, but if it doesn't work, it's something that they're working to make happen. Rio will allow you to use basic authentication with Git or SSH authentication with private Git repositories if you point it at a local SSH key file. This allows you to use Git repositories that are not public. Similarly, you can push and pull from private registries for your container images. Now, all of the building stuff that we've been doing is actually using a local registry that's internal to Rio. So it brings it down, builds it locally, stashes it locally, and then serves it locally. But if you wanted to do Rio run from a private registry image, then you can just pass Rio the credentials as a secret and it'll use them to connect to the registry and pull down and deploy your image. There are significant benefits to having a local registry from which things are deployed. You don't have to pay a third party. You don't have to keep your stuff outside of the domain that you control. You don't even have to maintain an internal registry server inside of your environment. You can just point it at the repo, let it build its stuff, and run it. Changes are automatically propagated, builds are cached, everything runs really fast, and everything is contained within your Kubernetes cluster where you're running Rio. I really wish that Rio up with the repository monitoring for pull requests worked with the RIOFILE, but it just doesn't yet. I've been really trying to stay with the RIOFILE because I think that that's the path to success for developers and those people who are going to adopt and use and benefit the most from Rio in their environments. But it's just not quite there yet. So stick with it, keep an eye on it, it'll get there. Today's day 6, tomorrow's day 7. Day 7, we're gonna shoot something to the moon. I'll see you there. Tomorrow all this madness comes to an end. Yesterday's video is up here, tomorrow's video is here. If there's nothing there, it just means tomorrow hasn't happened yet. So subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and you'll get an alert when this or anything else that I make comes out.